All right, and welcome back to the Collinsville VGC Regionals, the Moon Series, and we just saw an exciting top 8 set with Alex Arand versus Ryan Lazzetto.
Yes.
We're going to move on to the next top 8 set. We've got the 3rd seed, Alex Underhill versus the 6th seed, William Marks. Both players showed on stream last in Swiss yesterday.
Yep.
Played a pretty good game. I think we saw William on the bottom take down Ken, whereas Alex took on...
He played Nathan Powell yesterday,
Nathan Powell.
earlier on in the tournament. But both of these players had great runs yesterday, ending the day 6-1, and looking to continue that success today into their top 8 match. I believe this is Will's 2nd regional cut, so he has been here before, but doesn't have as much success as Alex, who's won a couple regionals before. Won this regional 2 years ago and another later that year in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And so, Alex is going to be looking to build on that, great resume and use his experience in the latter stages of these tournaments.
Yeah, we can see some of Alex Underhill's accomplishments here. Sorry about the rant there, but mostly he's been here multiple times and has a lot of achievements from this regional area.
Yeah, there we go.
So St. Louis regional champion, St. Louis regional top 4. And then he also has a bunch of other championships, like Fort Wayne Regional Championship in 2017. That was a tournament that I also did pretty well in, but didn't make it quite there.
Yeah.
And U.S. Nationals top 8 was really his breakout performance in 2015.
Yeah, no, that's when he broke onto the scene. He really came out of nowhere in top 8 at U.S. Nationals and became a household name almost immediately because, the next year, very soon after that is when he made top 4 at St. Louis. And so, he's been a very popular player at the later stage of these tournaments since then. And he's using a pretty cool team. With that Gradon Lunala, we saw pretty hard trick room mode yesterday with this team on stream.
All right, now moving on to William Marks, we can see here that he's a bit of a newer player, like I said yesterday, and he's got a couple of achievements from the last season, which was his first full season playing the circuit. His first tournament was 2017 North American Internationals, so didn't really play that season, just kind of started getting his toes wet. And 2018 he really came out big with Costa Mesa, although that's a region that most people tend to kind of put on the back burner.
Right.
Some people don't even remember if it even happened. But an achievement's an achievement, and top 8 is definitely something to be proud of. Definitely got some money out of it. He's running kind of a more standard build, the one we've seen recently from the Australian International Championships. Lunala, Xerneas, Stakataka, Incineroar, Serena, Smeargle build. So those Pokemon do have a lot of move options, so it'll be interesting to see what William has brought. We did see Stakataka do quite a bit of work versus Ken yesterday in Swiss. So we do maybe expect to not see that since Groudon's on the opposing side, but you never know. Maybe he'll bring it. Yeah,
it's interesting that these two teams actually share 4 Pokemon, but they're so incredibly different, even if you just look at them on Team Preview. Alex's team has that Groudon instead of Xerneas, and the type of Finny instead of Smeargle, but we've seen that Alex relies on that Trick Room mode from the Lunala and the Stakataka, whereas Will likes to boost his Xerneas with Geomancy, possibly go for something like a Psych Up with that Lunala, and so even these two Lunala are trained very differently.
Yeah, I think as far as Lunala is concerned, we saw that Alex is running more of a slower Trick Room set, so that extra bulk might prove to come in handy. We saw yesterday in the mirror match, I suppose, that Ken and Williams Lunala's could not knock each other out with the Moongeist Beam, and I think Alex might even be able to take it a little better because he's not, dumping a lot of effort putting forward the speed training.
Exactly.
So, William might have a tough time, especially if instead of running the common timid nature, Alex has chosen something a bit more slow and bulky, like Modest or Calm even.
Yeah, it's really cool because, we have the Trick Room option on Alex's end, but we also know that the Stakataka on Will's team also usually carries Trick Room. And so if he has the option to reverse Trick Room if he really needs to, or at least just take advantage of Trick Room with his own slow Pokemon. And so, it's going to be cool to see if Will adjusts his game plan to, potentially not opt for that faster mode like he normally would, and instead try to play around Alex's slow mode.
Yeah, I think William does have to watch out. He can't really put too many things to sleep using that Smeargle if Alex just leads with Tapu Fini. So we'll see if Alex does indeed to do that. But now it's just going to be Incineroar and Stakataka on his end. And on Williams' end, he's going to be reading that Lunala and Incineroar. So perhaps having some answers to Trick Room, stop Stakataka from getting off. But other than that, Stakataka does look to be in kind of a pretty good position.
Yeah, Stakataka is pretty good here. It won't take much damage from the opposing Incineroar because it is at that -1 attack. And Stakataka's defense is sky high. Lunala does threaten it with a pretty strong, Moongeist Beam or potentially Z move, but likely won't be able to knock it out in just one hit. And so, something like a Fake Out might have to stop Stagataka from, getting anything done this turn. But that does leave Alex's Incineroar, free to potentially Snarl or U-turn or just break that Shadow Shield in any other way.
Yeah, definitely not feeling the vibes here from Lunala, as Stagataka is just going to protect it. No switches, so Lunala's going to risk it for the biscuit here. Trying to get the damage early onto Stagataka with Moongeist Beam, but whiffing as U-turn comes off from Williams Incineroar. Just going to get a bit of switch initiative, doing a little bit of damage as well. We'll see who he chooses to replace it with, as Alex just has this free action with Incineroar, and it didn't go for Fake Out, so this could be a very big dark move into that Lunala.
It could be a very big dark move, or it could just be a bit of a reposition with U-turn, but either of those options would be great for Alex. It's actually the Throat Chop.
Very cool. So Throat Chop is an interesting tech. It stops all sound moves for a couple of turns here. Lunala not really known for using any sound moves, but still 4 times effectiveness. It's still going to do a lot of damage to that shield, even at -1. It definitely puts it in range of another one. So good damage on Alex's side. Is putting off the Trick Room for now. And, Lunala says, I'm done with that. I don't want to have Throat Chop anymore.
I don't like this.
Bring in Xerneas. Bring in the Zern. And, Serena is possibly carrying high jump kick. I think we maybe saw it on a couple of them. I'm not sure if we saw it from Williams, but definitely threatening that Stag Attack there.
Stagataka not really wanting to take that possible high jump kick, switches out for Tapu Fini instead. We do see the Zern come in for Lunala, like John mentioned, and a little bit of a risk because it was... Oh my gosh, that's huge.
Power coming out. A lot of damage, not enough to knock out, so very well trained in the defenses here. Gonna eat up that berry, so prevent a knockout. Though honestly, that damage on the switching was really crucial, so Throat Chop gonna go into the Lunala, of course, or not Lunala slot. Xerneas here doesn't really mind being Throat Chopped here, doesn't really speak its voices.
Right.
Really more calls to the earth and boosts itself up that way.
That's such a big turn from Will, though. Switching Lunala out into Xerneas when Lunala very likely could have been targeted by a Gyro Ball that turn if Alex decided to go for damage. Pretty big risk, but he calls that switch expertly. He knows that Alex is fearing the high jump kick. He knows that he probably has a Tapu Fini in the back, potentially even Lunala, and so a high jump kick might have resulted in Serena losing half itself if Lunala did come in, but reads that Tapu Fini, does so much damage, almost knocks it out with that power whip immediately.
Alright, we see Xerneas here going for Geomancy. It is pretty free to do so, as Incineroar and Tapu Fini don't really exert that much offensive pressure, though Xerneas does have to watch out, as both of these Pokemon like to carry these tech moves like Roar, Snarl, or even Haze from Tapu Fini. So it'll be interesting to see if Alex reveals his hand right here to kind of deal with the Geomancy threat. High jump kick gonna come out and connect with Incineroar. Not enough for the KO, but definitely putting it within that barrier range. So chomp on that breakfast, get our health back up here to about 75%, and we're back in the game.
We do see a U-turn come out from Incineroar right away. Interestingly enough, the U-turn faster than the Tapu Fini. We usually see Incineroar being trained to be a little bit slower than Tapu Fini, so potentially giving away that Alex trained these two Pokemon in specific ways. But Alex able to reposition himself, get a little bit of chip damage off on that Serena, bringing that Stack Attack to face down the Xerneas instead. And it's the Haze right away.
Alright, Haze gonna get rid of those Geomancy boosts, so Xerneas effectively spent its turn doing absolutely nothing, which is great for Alex, and threatening the Xerneas down with Haze is always great. So in the future games, William will have to watch out for that. And Stack Attack hitting the field makes Xerneas not super glad to be in here doing nothing.
Right.
Still has that damage output it can put out with Moonblast at neutral, but gonna have to rethink this board position on Williams' end if he wants to get anything done in the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's a big haze from Alex, and he immediately cancels that Geomancy boost. Will no longer be able to Geomancy in one turn to get those boosts, and this Stack Attack looking pretty. A high jump kick from Serena will do a lot of damage, but likely not able to knock it out, especially with this Intimidate that's coming onto the field.
Yeah, that Intimidate is very crucial. The high jump kick is very powerful, a very powerful attack, but Serena is not the fighting type, so it's not going to see the same type attack bonus. And Dazzling Gleam, getting some spread damage here, really not doing a whole lot. I would have maybe liked a Moonblast into the Stack Attack slot a little better. But no, actually, high jump kick is going to target down the Incineroar switch and barely miss the KO. Trick Room is going to go up, and Stack Attack is really healthy and at full power.
Yeah, so Will, knowing that the Incineroar probably coming in to, bolster Stack Attack's defense even more, correctly gets the high jump kick correct, but just barely misses out on that knockout, and now Incineroar will likely be able to, U-turn out, potentially try to read a switch from Will, or even just go straight for damage on Serena with a Flare Blitz, because this Stack Attacker really wants to take this knockout on Xerneas right now, especially because one of Will's switch-ins is that Lunala with the Shadow Shield broken. Gyro Ball likely able to pick it up from that range as well, and so this Stack Attacker really in a great position right now.
Yeah, I feel like Stack Attacker might even be enough to kind of run through the rest of Williams' team if it has those Trick Room turns and utilizes them effectively. But actually we're going to see a switch, so maybe taking a bit more proactive approach, going to get in Groudon, which we saw on stream yesterday was the Choice Banded variant. That means it's extremely powerful, especially if there is no Intimidate to threaten it, but as I was talking about, here's that Intimidate coming in to neuter kind of a little bit of the damage. It's still not going to be enough to maybe make it not threatening, but mitigating a little bit is definitely what William needs to do in order to get back in the game.
That's an interesting play from Alex because, he had that really threatening Stack Attack on the field, but potentially trying to read that Incineroar coming in for Serena, and he does switch out the Stack Attack and U-turn, so we'll be likely seeing the Stack Attack come back in as we do. And so now the Xerneas will have, a chance to fire off a last-ditch attack. So we do see Dazzling Gleam for a little bit of damage on both of these Pokemon, but, now Alex is in a much better position because he does have this Stack Attack in on the field, at neutral attack as opposed to the -1 it would have been at had he left it on the field this past turn.
Yeah, again with Dazzling Gleam, I feel like William is just trying to spread his damage a little too thin. He just wants damage, but he's not really targeting down the things that he needs to target down with the Moonblast. Maybe, like, first example, if that was a Moonblast into the Groudon slot last turn, it would be within KO range.
Right.
Another one. So he is kind of compromising on damage, maybe reading some protects or reading some not targets, but there's a protect of his own. Just wants to keep Xerneas around a little more, knows that it can still do some damage. As Fake Out comes out, the classic Fake Out Protect play. Gyro Ball going to hit him that protect, and dead turn, but burning a turn of Trick Room is always great for the end game here.
Right, a little bit of a dead turn, but Fake Out Protect, generally not the best idea just because you want to be using Fake Out to buy a turn for your partner, but in this case it was smart. The Groudon would have been able to knock out the Incineroar with their Precipice Blades, and Stack Attacker would have been able to knock out Xerneas with a Gyro Ball. And you don't have a way to stop both of those from happening, and so if you protect Xerneas, there's no way it gets knocked out by Gyro Ball, and if you Fake Out Groudon, it can't get its Precipice Blades off. So a good use of Fake Out Protect from Will on that turn for sure.
Alright, so you're not going to come in to replace Xerneas. It's going to take this Gyro Ball probably not very well. It is going to be enough to put it within that range of Berry. So unfortunately, if Alex went for the Precipice Blades, probably not going to get the knockout on Sarina this turn. But, still has a lot of turns of Trick Room left. Precipice Blades is going to connect with that Incineroar, actually being slower than the Incineroar as well, so that's just going to be a clean knockout. I'm sure William was maybe not expecting, or maybe he was expecting that, and just didn't want to switch it out for fear of taking too much damage on that Lunala.
Right, he really only had one Pokemon that could switch in this turn, it was the Serena, because Lunala, likely would have been knocked out by a Gyro Ball, maybe not by Precipice Blades, but it would have put it at a very low rate of health, and so knowing that he's really got to pick one. He wanted to keep the Xerneas for later in the game because it is healthy. It can't Geomancy anymore, but it does have the option to fire off some powerful Moonblast still. And so Serena, that slot likely can't protect as well just because Serena generally doesn't carry protect. And so Alex is going to have to make the most of this last turn of Trick Room.
Yeah, so after the Trick Room wears off, I think William will be in a nice position if he has both of his Restricteds on the field. Still has that Z move available if he wants to go ahead and pop it onto that Stack Attacker. But actually, I think Alex is predicting or preparing a little bit for this by switching into Tapu Fini. Maybe going to get some Heal Pulse going on, or maybe a Light Screen or something along the lines, so that Stack Attacker can survive long enough to put up another Trick Room. As Xerneas is just going to protect itself, just wants to get out of Trick Room here and start firing off those Moonblasts like we said.
Did you see Gyro Ball coming up from Stack Attacker? Hits the right target. A very, very smart play from Alex because he knows that Serena commonly doesn't carry Protect. It won't be able to protect itself from a Gyro Ball, and the Xerneas likely didn't want to just be knocked out for free this turn, and so a very smart target from the Serena. But now we do see Trick Room in, and we do have the Lunala on Will's side coming out onto the field. Like you said, Will is down 2-4, but he does have his Xerneas at almost full health. He does have this Lunala, which hasn't used its Z move yet. And so Alex has to find a way to kind of maneuver himself into a position where he doesn't have to fear getting menacing Moonraze Maelstrommed into oblivion.
Yeah, he does have that 7 HP Incineroar in the bag, so having that survive, very crucial for this switch in. He might be able to burn the Z move into a Pokemon that was effectively already useless as far as using moves. So there's definitely that option to consider on Will's side, and he has to think really, really hard about whether he wants to burn that Z move right away or not.
Right, this turn's going to be important because if Alex calls us correctly and, doesn't expect the Z move and goes for something like a Trick Room that could pay off, but he actually just opts to protect himself instead.
Yeah, very safe play there. Make sure that he doesn't take damage and buys himself a couple of turns to maybe get William to use that Z move prematurely here, as Moongeist Beam is going to target into the Tapu Fini actually. So great read on William's part, predicting that protect or maybe even the switch here. And Moongeist Beam isn't
just
enough
barely
to finish off Tapu Fini. Nature's Madness going to go into Xerneas, take it down to half of its HP. And that's a lot of damage, but honestly, it probably isn't too important in the long run. It just makes it maybe easier for Alex's Groudon to clean up once he comes back in.
Right, the Xerneas being at that low health instead of almost full means that one Precipice Blades from Groudon will very likely be able to knock it out thanks to that Choice Band boost. So we saw that Alex did get that turn incorrectly, but the Tapu Fini thankfully surviving to get that Nature's Madness off. And now Will has to be worried about this stack attack even more just because Alex still have these switch options like this Incineroar we're seeing now.
Alright, so Alex going to switch in that Incineroar, take this double knockout for his two Pokemon and get in his Sack Attack and Groudon after they fall. But we'll see if William decided to burn the Z move this turn, because if he did, it's just going to hit nothing. And now smart, very smart, not going to use the Z move just yet, although still in a very sketchy situation. Like I said before, those Dazzling Gleams in the previous turns, if they were actually Moonblast, could put him in a much better position than he is right now. He might have to rely on a couple of Precipice Blade misses here in order to get the win. Or, Alex might just aggressively Trick Room here, maybe predict the double target into Groudon for a knockout and still be in the same good position he was.
Yeah, the good thing for Alex is that he can't lose both of these Pokemon this turn unless something unfortunate like a critical hit happens. And so, he's still in a position to win this game for sure, because this Groudon, Precipice Blades is a super strong attack coming off of Groudon's very high attack and boosted by that Choice Band. It might even be able to take these Pokemon out, both of them in one hit from this point. And so, Alex has to worry about Will has to worry about that Groudon, firing off Precipice Blades, but also the Stack Attack. Gyro Ball will be able to knock out both these Pokemon as well.
All right, another Dazzling Gleam from Williams Xerneas. Maybe he doesn't even have Moonblast. If he doesn't carry it, then that would make sense as to why he's using Dazzling Gleam. Here's just a normal Moongeist Beam. It's probably going to target down that Groudon. Definitely doesn't want to take the Precipice Blades or even the chance of having them hit. So down goes Groudon, but Trick Room is going to go up, and that's going to be really down to the 50-50 here. Which Pokemon will William protect next turn, or will he double protect? That's something that Alex will have to decide, and if he calls it right, he has a very high chance of just straight winning the game.
Right. The Stack Attack having that Steel typing means it's very likely able to take 2, maybe 3 Moonblasts from this Xerneas because it is at that neutral special attack. And so if you're Alex, I think you kind of need to target this Lunala just to make sure it doesn't fire off that Menacing Moonraze Maelstrom and knock you out. But the Gyro Ball will be able to connect with Lunala, take that knockout, and put Alex in a position to take this game 1.
All right, yeah, I think that will be game, as Xerneas would have to maybe pull a triple protect or something like that to get out of Trick Room. Not only that, has to maybe crit the Moonblast out of Trick Room. So
right.
This is looking pretty bleak, and I think William might just have to think about what he did good in this game and what he needed to maybe improve. Definitely has Moonblast, seeing it now. So maybe having that earlier in the game would have helped a little better to handle this end game.
Yeah, so Alex, it looked for a second like Will might be able to make a comeback, but Alex managing those turns very well. Even though he got a couple reads wrong, he did protect the Stack Attack on the double into the Tapu Fini, but he was able to manage his resources well. He knew that his win condition was getting Groudon and Stack Attack on the field at the same time, and so Will had to kind of pick which one to focus down. And so very smart play from Alex at the end of that game.
Yeah, I think Alex in general just played that game very smart, very safe, and William even took advantage of some of those plays, but couldn't actually follow through in the end game.
Right.
So I think he has the tools to succeed, but he just needs to follow through a little better on what's more important to get damage on, rather than spreading your damage thin with Dazzling Gleam.
Yeah, I agree. The Dazzling Gleams, you know, it could have been Moonblast. They would have done much more damage to a single target. You know, there were some times when Dazzling Gleam made sense, you know, when the Tapu Fini was at very low health and the Incineroar switched in, the Dazzling Gleam picked them both off. And so, you know, some of them were okay, some of them could have been Moonblast. It's hard to say just because that game could have gone a bunch of different ways at the end. But you know, I really like the way that, you know, Alex managed the beginning of that game with the stack attack at getting Trick Room up, but also, you know, showing that his team isn't incapable of doing some damage outside of Trick Room, because he was threatening a lot of damage, you know, with that Groudon after Trick Room wore off.
Yeah, Groudon here putting on a lot of pressure even when not in Trick Room is definitely, you know, influential to the opponent's playstyle, because you know that if you just leave the Groudon there, it's just going to fire strong attacks.
Right.
So you can't really afford to let it sit there, even though it has the potential to miss. Even if it does miss, it still has that threat the next turn.
Yeah.
So you just need to get rid of it as soon as possible. And maybe William will try to look for a more aggressive approach to taking care of the Groudon or all of Alex's Pokemon here.
Right, and we saw that Will is very capable of making these aggressive plays. You know, power whipping a stack attack as it switches to Tapu Fini. You know, high jump kicking as a Incineroar comes in, and so yeah, Will is very capable of, you know, pulling out more aggressive plays in order to put himself in a better position. But he's got to make sure he capitalizes off those plays when they do go his way, because you know, even though he made these good plays, they just weren't enough at some times.
All right, we see here from Alex, we have Incineroar stack attack, just going with the same similar game plan as William is going to change up, going to bring in Sarina and Lunala, just bring in the immediate pressure on Stack Attacker with that high jump kick as well as the Moongeist Beam. Just want to stop Trick Room from going up or maybe threaten Stack Attacker out, create some situations where you can maybe make a hard read, a hard switch. But, you know, Incineroar here is very, you know, glad to be here. He just has a lot of opportunity to do something. And that's never a good thing in the format where Incineroar is literally on every team.
Yeah. No, Incineroar really not scared of anything this turn. The high jump kick really won't be doing much damage thanks to Incineroar's, you know, pretty good bulk. And
ooh, there's a feint.
Big.
It's going to break that Protect on Stack Attacker for 1 damage. But, you know, the most important part is going to be this Moongeist Beam damage.
Yes.
So it's going to be able to put it down to a range where anything, even the -1 high jump kick, might knock it out here. Every point counts after all. Throat Chop gonna go into Lunala. This is not at -1, so it's gonna do cleanly over half.
That's a big chunk.
Very big chunk there. And you know, Incineroar is still in a great position to kind of throw out attacks, even though it's not known for attacking too well.
Right.
Stack Attacker here is definitely threatened, as he using a Protect and having it broken, taking the damage it didn't really want to take. So William here might have to be playing with the thought that Stack Attacker might switch.
Yeah, no, that was a really good turn from William, that turn 1, because he got so much damage off on Stack Attacker. Yeah, fainting through the Protect for, you know, a lot of damage that would put it in range of, you know, a Z move from the Lunala or a high jump kick from the Serena, but actually high jump kick targeting the Incineroar instead.
Yeah, so kind of Alex calling the bluff here. Throat Chop once again going to go into the Lunala slot. Incineroar not going to take too much damage, but Trick Room is going up, and that is the important part here, as Alex has now given himself a bunch of momentum if he can get his attackers in to start firing up very powerful attacks.
Yeah, no, that was very well played from Alex. And, you know, Will put himself in a very good position to take a knockout on that Stack Attack at turn 1, but just didn't really capitalize on it, like we were saying earlier. Yeah, these reads that he's making are great, but you have to keep playing after these reads. They're not going to win you games immediately, and so yeah, a little bit of a misstep for Will there, because he just kind of let Alex's Trick Room go up.
All right, and Groudon hits the field as no fake out from Williams with Incineroar, just a U-turn from Alex's to reset the attack drop as well as get in another Pokemon to maybe start attacking. Probably coming back in for maybe Stack Attack or the Tapu Fini here, set up the terrain. I think that one's actually going to be Lunala, so didn't opt to bring Tapu Fini this time. As U-turn from Williams' own, Incineroar is going to break that Shadow Shield and go back to reposition himself again.
Yeah, so interesting that he brought Lunala this time, possibly thinking that Tapu Fini wasn't as helpful as he might have liked it to be. The Shadow Shield immediately getting broken is unfortunate, but you know, we know that Will's Shadow Shield is also broken, and he's at much lower health, and so you know, Alex's Lunala is still in a pretty good position, likely going to be able to fire off a really powerful Z move at some point during this game.
All right, here's that power up. A good call, but with that -1 from Intimidate, it's really not going to do a whole lot. A 3-hit KO at best. It has the chance to miss as well. And now Groudon is in here at neutral stages of attack. You can definitely switch in Incineroar, but that's very risky considering that the Incineroar is prone to getting knocked out even if Groudon goes to -1 from Intimidate.
Right.
And losing Incineroar means you lose a great tool of pivoting, great tool of damage mitigation, and, you know, a good coverage tool for this Lunala. And I don't know if you're William, I don't know if you could afford that.
I don't know if there's a way to win this turn for William, because if you want to switch an Incineroar to kind of mitigate the damage from Groudon, it's likely getting knocked out by a Precipice Blades. You know, but if you don't switch an Incineroar, you know, both of these Pokemon on his end are going to be taking a lot of damage from this Precipice Blades, and so you kind of have to pick something to get rid of this turn, just because, you know, Alex has put himself in a spot where he has his two most powerful attackers on the field at the same time.
All right, and Incineroar going to come back for Xerneas. Just got U-turned out just to come back in, so he's like, what are you doing? am I being sent to go away now?
Yeah.
As Precipice Blades does
Double
connect with both targets, and, you know, Incineroar, glad to do his part. You know, it definitely did the -1 Intimidate, one of the greatest things it does, but I think this Lunala might have something else in store for that Serena.
Right. We do see the Moongeist beam coming out from Lunala. Serena typically invests in its bulk a lot, and so it might be able to take this Moongeist beam, but, you know, at a pretty big cost, because Will does lose his Incineroar, and it's actually able to knock it out.
Wow, that's so strong. It definitely seems to me that Alex has trained his Lunala in a way that capitalizes on its very high special attack, rather than focusing on, you know, winning speed ties with other Lunala. As a Trick Room team, doesn't need to really go for that.
Yeah, that's huge, because now this Lunala is still in Trick Room. Considering Alex's team is pretty heavily based on Trick Room, we can probably assume Alex's Lunala is trained to be a little bit slower, and he does have his Z move still intact. So if Will, you know, even if Will tries to protect his Lunala, the menacing Moonrays Maelstrom will do so much damage to Will's Lunala that it probably even gets knocked out through that protect.
Yeah, it's looking very much over for William, since Stack Attack at over half of its HP is still in the back. So regardless of what plays William makes, I think Alex is just going to take the KO on Lunala, even if it protects, like you said. Xerneas also going to protect, doesn't want to take too much damage, and wants to try to get out of Trick Room as quickly as possible.
And here's that Z move.
Here's that menacing Moonrays Maelstrom, the triple M. I would be very surprised to see it target Xerneas after what we've been talking about.
Yeah, especially because they did bring in that Stack Attack to deal with Xerneas. So.
And knowing Alex as a player, I think he's already kind of cornered the win condition here for this game, set, match. We're just going to watch this animation come off as the other Lunala gets sucked into the void. And we're going to see some lasers being shot here.
Yeah, so a very, very good play by Alex. You know, he played this second game very well. You know, even after that kind of poor turn one where he had his Stack Attack in a position to be knocked out, you know, he called Will's bluff perfectly. Maybe even picking up on the fact that Will, you know, tried to make more reads than necessary each turn, even though he got turn one right. You know, it's kind of an example. Again, like Will power whipped a Stack Attack as it switched into Groudon earlier in this game, which was a good read. It got some good damage off on Groudon, but it just wasn't enough. And that was a little bit of a trend in this game, just because Will, you know, made some great plays. He made some great reads, but it just wasn't enough to break through the wall of Alex's defense.
Yeah, and that's going to be a forfeit from Will. So Alex taking a commanding game 2, despite being put down early with the feint combination.
Right.
Game 1 was definitely more either way. But I think William got maybe a little too overzealous with the reads he was making, and like you said, Alex just took full advantage of that, maybe knowing, well, he's just going to make the level 2 play all the time, so I'm just going to, you know, go for the Trick Room here and going to set it up, and, you know, it didn't even fall off by the end of that turn, so, you know...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, very well played by Alex that entire set. You know, he knew exactly what his team needed to do to win. It's very likely that he had been theorying this match out for a little while, just because we did see this team, you know, do so well in Australia just a week ago. And so, you know, when a team like that does well, you know, making both finalists had that exact same team, and so, you know, you got to know how to play against that team whenever you know, come to a tournament very soon after its success, and so very likely coming in handy for Alex.
Yeah, and that's very important. If you want to run a very popular team, one that's kind of, you know, seen high levels of play, then you also yourself have to be a high level player. And you know, making top 8 at a tournament like this, we're using a team that was very fresh, is very much a good accomplishment for William.
Yes,
I think he should be very proud, making a couple bucks here and there, and getting a bunch of CP. Maybe you chasing that stipend for North America International Championships. So I think he should be proud regardless of the result. He did his best, you know, made a bunch of great reads, and if they had just turned out a little better, or maybe he eased off the gas a little bit, might have come out for game 3 or something along those lines. But great job to both our contenders. We'll have a player interview with Alex Underhill here soon, so we'll be right back.
And welcome back to Collinsville. We're here with Alex Underhill, who has just won his top 8 match, made it into top 4. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're back here 2 years ago. You're in the same spot. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time thinking about what I was going to do in this matchup, and there was just a lot of different ways that he could take it. And like right off the bat, that was not the lead I expected. So already I was trying to adapt to what he was doing. And for a point in game 1, I thought it was over, and I was ready. I was thinking about game 2, and then somewhere along, I think it was when my Finney got off the haze. I just didn't expect to, and so that was really relieving. And I was like, okay, we're back in this.
Yeah.
Let's turn this around.
That's interesting because it felt like game 1 that you were in control most of the time. It's kind of funny to hear that you didn't think so, and then.
I think the big part was when I really just thought he wouldn't allow Trick Room.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to take out his Lunala with a throat chop, and he brought in Xerneas, and I'm like, yeah, that's it. Like,
that's unfortunate.
I throat chopped to Xerneas. Xerneas does have a throat, but he doesn't do a lot of singing or anything like that, or any sound things.
Yeah.
So that was a little sad.
Right.
But yeah, and then all along I was planning to switch game 2 to the Lunala over Finney. But I never got to see what the third move on Serena was, and I think that was very impactful because he never U-turned, he never helping handed, and those are the 2 moves that are most common.
Yeah.
I've seen his other 3 moves in our previous set because I don't know if you know, but Will and I did play in Swiss.
Okay.
Where I won that set after 3 games.
Okay.
And so we both went in with a good amount of info on each other. And I didn't know that one thing, and that was probably the thing that was most worrisome. Is just what was this Serena going to do in the matchup? It was a very important Pokemon, and it was really scary to face down. Yeah,
I know he got a couple of turns, very correct with that Serena too. He got a big high jump kickoff. He got some pretty important feints, like that feint turn 1 of game 2.
Yes.
So yeah, you're very right. That Serena was a pretty big issue for you. So one thing, speaking of that feint turn 1, one thing that we noticed was that a lot of times Will was making these big reads and then failing to kind of capitalize on them in the next turn. Especially since you played him in Swiss, was that something you picked up on too, or were you trying to call his lack of play the next turn or something like that?
It wasn't the lack of play the next turn. I went in knowing Will makes big reads.
Okay.
He really thrives on making a lot of reads. But I was just playing safe to the point that I was comfortable with getting red.
Okay.
Since I knew that he had feint, I was just ready to be feinted turn 1 every game.
Yeah.
And I was fine with it. I had plans for it if he did, if he didn't. So I was ready for a lot of reads. Sometimes the reads did feel unnecessary, like when he high jump kicked my Incineroar for a bit of damage, and I'm just like, it's good damage, but there were better things you could do. I think that was when he allowed me to get the haze off, and I think that was probably the biggest misplay.
Yeah, no, very true. Yeah, we thought that Xerneas game 1 setup might have been a big issue, but the immediate haze kind of flipped that match immediately.
Yeah, that was so good. That was pivotal.
Right. So you've been in this position multiple times before. You've won a couple regionals. You won this one specifically. How do you feel now compared to when you were playing in those regionals that you won?
It's very different because the format's very different, and this is the one that I've definitely had the least practice for. This team I've just found at the very last minute, and I was just like, all right, that looks really cool. It's Trick Room. I'm a very big fan of Trick Room, and one thing that was very funny to me is that I thought Lunala was kind of the Pokemon that killed Trick Room for me, kind of made it not viable because I was a big fan of Mimikyu.
Okay.
And it just goes through Mimikyu's disguise and brings it right down to Sash, ruins my whole plan. And so I was like, wow, Lunala just ruined everything. Lunala just, got rid of all my fun. And then I was like, wait a minute. But Lunala is just bringing in a new era of Trick Room. And so Lunala has been really fun.
Right.
The Z move is not fun, though. It's really long.
It's really long. It's fun to talk over, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Well, congratulations. You made top 4 again. You're playing Alex Arand in top 4.
Yep.
I know you're local with him as well.
Yeah, we're both Chicago.
So, I'm sure you played him a lot at your locals and even
have.
regionals and stuff. So that'll be a fun match to watch. Do you have any shout-outs you'd like to give before we move on?
One thing that you probably already commented on, but Alex cut last year too, I believe, right?
He did.
So, yeah, he and I are both frequent Collinsville cutters, I guess.
I guess every year it's been in Collinsville, at least one of you is cut.
Yeah. Alex is, I guess, reign supreme here in Collinsville.
Right.
But for shout-outs, I'd like to shout out Reggie Filzame, shout-outs to my cat, shout-outs to all the pair, shout-outs to Parish Karaoke, and shout-outs to Cruisers, and shout-outs to Gina and my fam and friends.
Great. Well, congrats, Alex. Good luck in top 4. We'll be right back with our third top 8 match here in Collinsville.